Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Benchmade Knives 940-2. First off, though, I want to thank very much my buddy Andrew for actually donating this guy to the channel. He donated it on the condition that when I sell it, the money goes to charity. That's a win-win kind of thing, so thank you so much for that, Andrew. Next thing, size comparison. Here it is against the Benchmade 940, which is kind of a, a standard in the EDC world. Here it is against Spyderco Delica, as always, the Ontario Rat number 1 and the Ontario Rat number 2. So you can see here, this is right in that same, vicinity there, right in that intermediate range, about 3.5 inch. It's pretty excellent. That's good. And then finally, a quick note. This is going to be a quick review, because I've reviewed the Benchmade 940. It was kind of a why I sold my sort of review, but still, I talked about it there. Then I reviewed the 941 in great depth, 940-1, not 941. And that's a very interesting knife that was just very overpriced. And so rather than talking yet again about what the 940 is and what it does, I'm just going to kind of briefly go over its pros and its cons and focus on the things that differentiate this from the vanilla 940 as well as from the 940-1. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into what's good about this guy, and then what's not so good about this guy, and then we can issue a final conclusion here. So, on the good side, this is still using a good steel. It is S30V, and I was a little afraid when I heard they were doing a G10 version of this guy that they were going to be cheaping out on the steel. Moved down to like 154 CM or something, but no, they did not. Not that 154 is a bad steel, but I like S30, maybe a little bit better. Regardless, it's a good steel, and that's absolutely a good thing. Next thing, this doesn't have the aluminum handles from the original 940. At some level, the aluminum was nice. It offers a bit of a premium feeling, and that is certainly the iconic model, 100%. But the thing is, it also is, the aluminum texture is not all that great. It's a little bit chalky. It's a little bit ugly. Well, okay, it's ugly in the tactile sense. It's actually pretty attractive otherwise. And so I do like the fact that they've gone to the G10. Heck, when I had one in the aluminum handles, I actually had the handle replaced with one in black G10 from a custom scale maker. So, yeah, they beat me to it here. So that's good. Next thing, this is lighter than the base model Benchmade 940 wow, that was cool. As I further injure my, my surface here, this guy comes in at 2.62 ounces, which I believe is a little bit lighter than the aluminum guy. Not by a huge margin, but that's always nice. And then finally, on the good side, this is still a Benchmade 940. It is iconic. It is robust. I mean, seriously, this is sort of Benchmade's Benchmade. This is about as Benchmade-y as Benchmade gets, maybe excepting like the mini grip or something like that. But it is also a robust knife. It's running on phosphor bronze washers. It's got the axis lock, which is a very strong locking mechanism. It's just a really good knife in that way. It is a dependable sort of knife. Because it's on washers, there's really not that much that can go wrong with it, short of the Omega springs break-in, which is absolutely an issue sometimes. It is lightweight. It's got a very nice blade shape, a nice profile. It carries beautifully, especially you ask Benchmade to send you a deep carry clip. That's a big improvement. Pardon me, guys. And then this guy has a very nice lock. The axis lock is good. The axis lock really shows off sort of his skill. And this isn't the smoothest of the 940s out there in the world, but it shows off sort of that smoothness that you can get from the axis lock very, very nicely. And quite frankly, I got to say, the 940 pattern is probably the best thing that Benchmade makes. Personally, I do like the Valet a little tiny bit better, but that's because it's a little tiny bit smaller. But thinking more objectively, the 940 is just an incredible knife, and it is probably the best thing that they do. And this hasn't really changed anything of that. It's just made it a little bit differently. So to me, all of that is the good, is that this is still a Benchmade 940, which is a really good thing to be. It is lighter than the base model by a little margin. It doesn't have those aluminum handles, which can feel not so great, and it has a pretty good steel. On the bad side, it has zombie green backspaces. This is probably not going to bug everybody, but oh my god, guys, seriously, it's bad enough that we have to deal with it here. Why should we have to deal with it here? And I think this knife would be a lot classier with blue or something else like that. I don't get why they went that route. Whatever. You can probably change them or paint them or something like that. So there you go. Next thing, I gotta wonder, why is this guy not in the customizer? Benchmade has on their website the ability to customize different pocket knives, to add like a blade graphic, change colors, things like that. This would be an incredible choice. If they offer just like 5 or 6 different colors of scales, allow you to swap either side. maybe off a different backspace of colors. I mean, that would be really, really great and allow you to switch. Oh, man, this is their best thing. Why is that not something that they're allowing you to do? I don't get it, Benchmade. Get on that. Next thing, this guy has a grind that is unimpressive. I mean, don't get me wrong. The blade stock thickness is pretty reasonable. It's a little thicker than Delica, with a much smaller space, but it's not a great cutter. I'm going to be honest with you here. The way that it's ground, it's pretty thick behind the edge. Come on now. Zoom. There you go. Pretty damn thick behind the edge on every edge. And so as a result, although this is going to be a very robust edge, it's not necessarily going to be the sliciest thing ever. That may be a pro for some people, but for me, honestly, that's one of the things where I always look at the 940 just like, oh, that's kind of a shame. So I'm not a big fan of that. Next thing, the price on this guy. So this is actually $10 cheaper than your base model 940. This guy goes for $170 now. And by the way, prices have gone up since my other videos. If you, but it's still $12. I'm sorry, not 10, but $12 less than the aluminum. That's good. I think for a little while there, this was the same price as the aluminum, which made no sense whatsoever. But that still feels, this is $170. That still feels really high for this, honestly. I mean, if you compare this to what other companies are doing, you know, this is a $170 knife out of Spyderco. The Spyderco PM2 is like $130. I mean, guys, where is the value here? I mean, it's a small knife. There's not even full liners here. It's S30V. It's not, there's nothing. It's $170. Like $30 of this guy is the butterfly on the blade. But mind you, it's still way better than the 940-1, which is $100 more than this, and that is completely and totally freaking obscene. So, but anyways, although I like the fact that it's a little cheaper than the aluminum one, the price is still completely unimpressive, and in fact is a little bit crazy. Benchmade just needs to start lowering prices ASAP. And so that's not good. And then finally, unfortunately, Benchmade's quality control has been questionable of late. It's, right now it is June of 2018, and, you know, although I'm seeing maybe some preliminary signs that the quality, that the machine, things are getting back up towards a better standard, I still don't trust them. And so this is a knife that you're going to want to probably buy in person. And what you're looking for is no vertical or horizontal blade play out of the box, as well as making sure that it is dead center, as well as, good Lord, wind, calm it down over there, as well as, hope and wind though, as well as a nice free dropping action. This is actually not as free droppy as I'd like. This is not one that's done as well, but that's a good indicator of good tolerances. And, you know, I'm sorry, if they're charging this damn much money for this knife, they really better be getting it perfect, and they haven't been lately. So to me, that's what's not so good about this guy, is that Benchmade's quality control still isn't to be trusted. Price is just plain high. The grind is really unimpressive when it comes to slicing and cutting. Benchmade's 940-2 is not in their customizer, which makes zero freaking sense. And the zombie green backspace is not doing it for me at all. Final conclusion, look, at some level, this is another good version of one of the best knives around. One of the more solid knives around. It's a little less pricey than the aluminum. It's a little bit easier to, well, I don't know. It seems to lend itself well to some customizability, better than the aluminum. You can paint the backspaces and whatnot. And you know what? It is every bit as good as the other versions. I mean, I've been talking about what's bad about this, but the fact is, the 940 is just a damn good knife. I mean, it's not perfect. It's still a little thick behind the edge relative to what I'd like to see. It's still a Benchmade of the modern era, which means you have to watch the QC like a hawk, and you're still paying 30 of, you know, maybe even $40 for this butterfly right here, but it is still the 940, and the 940 is still a great choice. This is absolutely just a great knife for everyday carry. It works beautifully, and it's a wonderful choice for everyday carry. There's a reason that so many damn people have carried these for so long. There are so many other good options out there at the $170 mark. You might consider the ZTO 450, which is a flipper, which is in a very similar sort of category. You might consider things like the Spyderco Shaman, which I think is, if you're looking for harder use, it's a much bigger knife. It's thicker. It's just greater in every dimension, but it's also, I think, a little bit more compelling in my personal estimation. But you know what? You can't really go wrong with it. And if you're willing to spend that extra money, you're willing to fork out for the butterfly tax, this is an absolutely excellent choice. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.